Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship His holy name.
Ang topic natin ngayong gabi is a very serious topic. It concerns the two big C's and the new C. We'll be talking about cancer, and we'll be talking about COVID. Now, I will try to do the webinar in an hour's time. I know you are all very busy. The majority, ang pag-uusapan natin ay tungkol sa cancer, which is a topic that was requested probably like 4 months ago. And the first one is, let me define cancer. Ngayon, marami po pwede tayo magkaroon ng cancer 50 organs or 50 places in our body. Basically, ang cancer is the uncontrolled growth plus the uncontrolled spread of abnormal cells in our body. Kasi alam naman po natin, nag-umpisa tayo sa maliit as a cell, tapos nag-multiply, and somewhere along the way, some things happen, some exposures, some substances, and some infections and everything. Yung normal na proseso ng paglaki or pag-multiply ay nagkakaroon ng problema. Ang cancer is not just the abnormal growth, pero ang potential niyang lumipat, ang potential niyang kumalat, yan ang isang factor that makes it cancer. Now, these are the two things I want you to remember. Everything starts small, and the time element is of the essence. Therefore, kapag maalala nyo yan, kahit yan lang po ang maalala nyo pagkatapos ng lecture kong ito, ay matutuwa na po ako. Kasi, ang cancer ay based sa dalawa, size and extension. Ang size, pag naalala nyo na everything starts small, so doon pa lang po, may gagawin ka ng proteksyon sa sarili mo. Number 2, ang cancer will extend, but that extension, hindi siya pwedeng 1 minute lang. It will have to take days or months or weeks or years. So doon pa lang, malalaman mo na ang bagay na ito ay nasa control ng iyong buhay. Okay? So, ano po ang data natin tungkol sa cancer? Unang-una, wala po tayong 2021 na data kasi patapos pa lang po ang taon. I will return to the 2020 data later on, ha? Pero, bakit importante na tama ang stage ng cancer? At bakit importante na mahalaga na yung pasyente ay kailangan niyang ma-digest o ma-proseso ito? Dahil pag tama ang stage, kung saan ka nahuli, having that cancer, magkakaroon ng tamang diagnosis. That is a proper diagnosis of your disease. And the other one, pag correct ang staging na gagawin, ay magkakaroon ng proper treatment. Dito po ang very controversial na part, especially to third world countries and poor countries like the Philippines. Pwede kang bigyan ng diagnosis, pero hindi mo gagawin ang correct na treatment, hindi mo susundin dahil sa maling akala na nasa Diyos ang awa, hanggang dun na lang. So sa lahat po ng aking mga nakikitang mga pasyente sa ultrasound yung mga in-ultrasound ko dahil sa mga problema nila sa mga bukol-bukol, whatever, ganyan po. Meron pong stage ng denial. Pag tinatanong ko sila, kailan nyo pa po ito nakapa? Sasabihin nila, last week, pero ang laki-laki na po eh. Doon, at saka sa further talking to them, conversing with them, will tell me na they felt it like 6 months ago, but they thought, akala ko po, ganyan. Or, ininuman ko po ng ganito. And then, when they come, most of the time, not because of the bukol, it is already because it is painful. Yun po yung part na nakakahinayang kasi you don't have to feel the pain at all. Okay? So, let me tell you, we will be discussing about signs and symptoms. This is a general discussion. We only have an hour to discuss this. But for you to know, a sign of an illness is something na ang ibang tao ang magsasabi. That is a sign. For example, may nakitaan ka ng bukol dito sa cheekbone. That is a sign by others. Pero, ang symptom is nakakaramdam ka ng kirot. So, it is by the one with the disease. So, klaro na yan, ha? Sign by others, symptom is by the person itself. Okay? Let's go to the next. Okay. In the cancer worldwide 2020 data, of course, hindi siya pwedeng 2021 kasi nandun pa tayo sa 2021, ano? In the United States, katulad po ito ng scientific study tungkol sa COVID na ginagawa ng OCTA or the group of Dr. David of UP na magkakaroon ng ganitong dadaming ganitong garamit, tapos bababa na siya. This is something like that. So, this is something admirable na ginagawa ng mga scientists na sometimes you cannot understand, but dahil sa kanilang expertise, they can say na during this time, magkakaroon ng ganito karami. And katulad niyan, there will be 1.8 million Americans with cancer. That's an additional 1.8. 1/3 of them will give in to cancer. The good news is 2/3 will survive. So, my question, para kanino ka gumigising? Masasagot mo yan kung masasagot mo yan na para sa sarili ko at wala nang para sa ibang tao. This lecture is not for you because you will give in. Bibigay ka sa diagnosis. Meron akong cancer. The end. Pero, kung ang sagot mo sa tanong na yan ay, gumigising ako para sa aking mga anak, gumigising ako para sa aking magulang na kailangan ng kalinga, gumigising ako para sa aking mga estudyante, and sino man, then this lecture is for you. Na in spite of dire diagnosis or life-threatening events in your life, you will fight for your life because you're not living your life for yourself. So if this is for you, then you continue listening to me. But if not, then you may just, I will humbly accept that you will not, this is not for you. Okay? So for older people, cardiac problems are the number one cause of death. Pangalawa lang po ang cancer. For children, accidents are the number one cause of death. Number two lang ang cancer. This is for the first world countries. Because dito sa Philippines and sa ibang mga poor countries, it would probably be infection. Okay? And malnutrition, mga ganon. Okay? So, if you have your pen and your ball and your paper, let me guide you on how to make a checklist. Okay? This is the checklist of risk factors. Ito ay personal nyong checklist, hindi po pwede ang kopyahan dito. Ngayon, like intelligence, meron pong porsyento ang cancer na based on inherited genetic mutation. Nasa lahi mo na. May magagawa ka ba? Yes. Kung pag alam mo na ikaw ay risk dahil may mga magulang ka, may mga kamag-anak ka na nawala dahil sa cancer, therefore, gagawin mo ang dapat mong gawin para hindi na madagdagan ang risk factor mo. For example, we all know that very familial, nasa lahi, nasa pamilya, ang, for example, colonic. Okay? Colonic cancer. So ikaw, makikinig ka ngayon, magbabasa ka tungkol sa baseline na colonoscopy once in your life. And if it is negative, you can do it the next 5 years. Hindi na po yearly ngayon, ha? For example, may lahi ka na very fresh pa sa'yo, na walang mahal sa buhay. Ninuno mo with colonic. You don't have to go through colonoscopy every year. So that is one thing that you have to update yourself. You have a baseline colonoscopy. If it is negative, you do it in the next 10 years. But there is another test. Ito po ay eksaminasyon ng mismong dumi. It is called FIT. And it is available in St. Luke's. Ito po ay nagsasubmit ka po ng dumi. Hindi na po siya katulad lang po ng fecalysis or occult blood of the feces, ganyan. It's an FIT test. It costs a little 1,000, 2,000 something. But this is not like colonoscopy na dadaan ka pa ng lalagyan ng yung puwet, contrast, nakahiga ka dyan, whatever, pwede ka mapahiya dahil nga gano'n and everything. Hindi. So it is an upgraded exam of the feces na malalaman na if you have an ongoing colonic cancer. You know, kasi ang cancer po ng colon is about 20 years bago siya maging full-blown. So, dun pa lang, malalaman mo na. Now, if you also have a family, an older sister, an aunt, mother with breast cancer, so the risk is there already. So what do? You now do the physical exam. Okay, let me just say this, after menstruation, sa mga nagme-menstruate pa, nakatayo kayo po sa may shower, kakapain nyo po ang dibdib nyo with using your right and left hand. For your right breast is for your right hand. Ganon. Para po siyang relo. 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, kakapain mo po siya. Kapag may kakaiba, kasi po dapat pantay. Kung ano nakakapa mo sa 9 o'clock ng right breast ay siya din na nakakapamo sa 3 o'clock ng left breast. Pag may kakaiba po, especially, ito po, matigas na hindi gumagalaw, may lumalabas sa nipple na kahit anong discharges, nagpapailalim ang nipple, nagiging flat, na dati naman po ay merong protrusion. Meron kang nakakapangkulani sa kilikili ng right, kung nandun ang bukol, at may sa leeg, ganon, at mayroong pagbabago sa kutis ng iyong dibdib. The minimum requirement here is once a month. This is called the self-exam. Sadly, marami akong pasyente na, Doktora, hindi ko po alam kapain. So, okay, kung hindi mo alam, tuturuan ko po kayo. Yun na nga po. Bare hands, you use a 9 o'clock, 3 o'clock, ganyan po. Kinakapan nyo po siya, kinukumpara nyo yung breast para po siyang relo. Okay? That is after menstruation. Bakit? Because during menstruation, the breasts are painful. Now, those who are menopause, wala na pong menstruation, you can still do that. But then you can raise your hand and do that. You can raise another hand and do that. The exam is there. What am I saying here? It is your gift to yourself. Regalo niyo po sa sarili niyo ang 10 minuto para ma-update kayo sa iyong katawan. Yun lang po ang minimum requirement once a month. Ngayon, kung sakali po may kaduda-duda po kayong nakapa, siyempre, magpapakapa din muna kayo sa inyong anak, sa inyong best friend. Ganyan po, di po ba? Tignan mo nga kung okay ito. Huwag na huwag niyo pong itatago. At huwag na huwag niyo pong ikahihiya. Kasi, ang mga napapansin ko po, dadaan sila sa denial. Akala nila kung ano, I don't also know kung ano yung akala nila. Akala lang po nila, litid, ganyan, whatever. Kasi hindi nawala, mga ganon. Until, kailangan pa pong maging masakit bago po nila dalhin ang sarili nila sa hospital. So, it is your gift to once in a month, nakahubad po kayo, you can look at the mirror. Kailangan po nating tanggapin ang mga pagbabago sa ating katawan. Tignan natin ang ating kutis sa likod, sa harap. Tignan natin ang ating mata. Tignan natin ang ating bunganga. Tignan natin ang ating dibdib. Check upin natin ang ating private part. Dahil ang ating pagpapahalaga sa ating katawan ay hindi po vanity. This is a necessity. Kasi we are doing this in private. And, aging does a lot of things to our body. Some things we have to accept. But there are some things we can fight against. Okay? Are we clear up to this time? So, remember the 5 signs? Pain of the breast is not one of the 5 signs of cancers of the breast, of the cancer of the breast. It is not. That is why po, kailangan din ng mga bata pa ang parang notebook ng menstruation. Kasi talaga naman pong merong part before and during and a little after menstruation na tender ang mga dibdib natin. So, baka naman po mag-overacting ang sasabihin, ang feeling ninyo. Di po ba? Na ang sakit. Cancer na to. Hindi naman po ganon. But, still always, there's a but. We can always find the middle zone where we are diligent to study our body, but we are not overacting about what we see. That is something we have to learn, okay? So, eventually, you will realize na there are 42 there is a 42% probability that you will decrease your risk of having cancer. Napakalaki po ng 42%. Meaning, mababago mo, maibababa mo ang tsansa mong magkaroon ng cancer. Sadly, lagi po akong sa checklist ninyo, okay? So you have an inherited genetic mutation. Basically, lahat tayo meron yan. Meron tayong naging kamag-anak na ganito, ganyan, ganyan. So yan, ililista natin yan. So, kaya lang may mga cancers po talaga na likas na minamana. May mga cancers na hindi. So kung nandoon ka na, so you are already part of the risk. So you write it down. That checklist is checked for you. Number 2, 19% is due to tobacco use. So I'm sure wala sa atin would be smoking. But it is very sad because I have a friend, talagang she is a chain smoker and she has done everything daw. Okay? And now she's very sick and I'm just praying for her. But then talagang on her birthday, she wished na she could stop smoking. That's why, don't start smoking. Para wala kang problema. Once you start it, it has an addictive quality and it will be more powerful than your willpower, then wala ka nang magagawa. Okay? So, tobacco use plus kasabay ng ibang mga factors na sasabihin ko, increases your chance. Or, tobacco use, then, kahit nag-stop ka in the last 15 years, you still have to do the yearly chest x-ray and the other cancer titers. Kahit yun na nga po ang sad part, no? Tumigil ka na noong 2005. Tapos pagbabayaran mo pa rin itong 2021. Kasi bago yon nagkaroon na ng mga ipon na 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, yung nicotine effect and all the other substances na ipon na siya inside your body. So, even though you stopped 15 years ago or just a year ago, that does not make you a lesser risk. Okay, that's what we have to tell our relatives, our loved ones who are sadly still smoking. Another factor is obesity. Ito po yung mas malaki ang body mass index mo kesa sa normal. Okay? Sorry po, medyo namumblema din po ako sa obesity. So, hindi ako masyado makakapag-discuss nito. But, in addition to lack of physical activity, this will quadruple your risk factor. Okay, so the first, which is a majority, is inherited genetic mutation. Pangalawa is tobacco use. This is confirmed. This has been studied. I really don't understand why people cannot believe that tobacco use has been proven already to be a carcinogen. Plus obesity, ang timbang mo ay mas malataas ng malaki sa normal. Now, there is a factor here tungkol sa weight gain. I will discuss it later, related to breast. The other one, 18% na pwedeng ma-modify na risk factor is alcohol consumption of more than, this is a scientific, this is not a religious data, of more than 1 glass a day. Okay? Alcohol. And a diet that is not rich in fiber. Alam natin po yan, greens, fruits, processed food instead, red meat, Um, in Japan, syempre po, there is a correlation daw between the tuna uncooked sashimi and gastric CA. That was a study by my consultant who went to Japan to study imaging of gastric cancer. You know what? He died of gastric cancer. He was a UST professor. Sadly, kasi syempre mga doktor po kami, di po ba? Takbo dito, nagda-drive kami, tapos kumakain siya sa kotse niya. So safe, di po ba? Kaya na nakakaramdam daw po siya ng mga sakit-sakit ng tiyan. Akala niya parang nalipasan lang siya ng gutom. Kasi nga po, wala po siyang ginawang an hour for yourself. Yung 10 minutes po kasi sa breast yun ho. An hour for yourself once a month. Minimum to check yourself. Wala po siya noon. He was just too busy running from UST to Heart Center to Marikina. And, you know, doctors, ito po yung kinatatakutan ko din po ho, are just too blind sometimes about themselves kasi feeling namin ang gagaling namin. So, eventually, it will be a humbling experience pag na-realize mo na, uy, na-miss ko to. And that's what he missed. And you know what he told me? If I had to change my way of practicing, every time I see a patient, I will tell his name. For example, na hinahawakan yung papel, nakasulat doon Alejandro Valdez. Sasabihin pa doon niya, good morning, Mr. Alejandro Valdez. Yun daw po. Magkakaroon daw po sana siya ng parang empathy. Kasi dati, nakahiga yung pasyente, diretso lang, ultrasound, tapos. Pati pag nagpapakonsulta. Yun ang natutunan niya, magkakaroon po siya ng puso para sa pasyente niya. Ngayon, syempre guilty din po ako minsan kasi may mga pasyente din pong maaangas, nakukulit. So, nire-remind ko din po sa sarili ko na hindi po siya kaso. Ang taong nasa harap ko ay hindi kaso. Kung hindi isa po siyang tao na nalilito, nasasaktan, nahihirapan, may iniinda, walang pera, maraming inaalala. So yun po, actually, yan po dapat ang aming matututunan din. Okay? So, another risk factor is poor nutrition. Poor nutrition is not merely walang makain po. Pwede kang kumain, pero grabe naman. Pampahabang buhay na lechon araw-araw. May kilala po akong ganyan. Ano na po siya ngayon? Magpapa-opera ng gallstone ngayong December 27 at meron na rin po siyang mga myoma. I don't know kung related. Pero yun po. Or preservatives ng ating mga pagkain. So, syempre, we agree and we all know fresh is best. But then, of course, hindi natin kontrolado ang ating mga binibili. So, we have to grow our own plantita food, not just leaves for beautification, but also plants for secure, healthy, and alam mo talagang fresh at walang insecticide, pesticide na kakainin. It's like plot to plate kind of living. Okay? The physical inactivity, this includes wala talaga pong exercise, wala po talagang ginagawang effort. So ano po ang iba pang unhealthy behavior? Ang iba pang unhealthy behavior would be being overwhelmed with stress, hindi na nalangan natin pinapasa Diyos. Sabi nga po nila, di ba? Idasal mo na lang, wag mo nilang alalahanin. And at this stage of my life, parang totoo naman pala yun, no? Na marami ka nang iniisip bukas, hindi pa nangyayari. Iniisip mo na. Marami talaga. Pero Sa next day, the Lord will provide. So, to live a life that is stress-free dahil maraming plantita sa tabi-tabi, okay. But if we choose to pray and be humble, but still do our part in the events of our lives, then probably the stress will be manageable. Hindi na po pupunta sa ating puso, sa ating mga cells, sa ating dugo, ang ating mga walang katuturang iniisip. Okay. So basically, we will have three classifications of cancer sources: physical, biological, and infectious. Ang physical for the Americans would be too much sun exposure dahil nga po wala po silang melanin. Tayo po, katulad ko, maitim, marami akong melanin, this protects me from the sun. So palakpakan po sa aming mga hindi pinagpalang mga K-drama skin. Tapos, yung second-hand smoke ng katabi mong naninigarilyo, ng mga sasakyan, ano pa ba, ng mga imbornal, yung mga ganyan po. The biological source of cancer would be asbestos. And you know what? The link between diabetes type 2 and cancer has been studied since 1969. They don't know if it's not yet conclusive kasi pagka isang group of physicians from the Netherlands will present this study, it has to be validated by another group of scientists in the United States, Australia, Japan, ganyan, until it doesn't become a 100%. You have diabetes too, so you have cancer. Hindi ganon. Magiging 70% na lang. Hindi 100%. So another study will be done. Dahil nga syempre, meron din pong competition on who will discover the link. But if you have diabetes type 2, that is already a risk factor. So you have to protect yourself already. You have to be mindful that since I have diabetes too, then I will read about it and I will do my best to decrease my risk by analyzing na, kailangan ko nang wag kumain ng masyadong maraming lean meat. Kailangan ko nang kumain ng tama na mga gulay, mga prutas. Tigtigilan ko na rin ang paninigarilyo. Yun po. Because your risk factor is already there. You have to protect yourself because you love not just yourself, but your loved ones who will need you. They will be sad when you leave. It will cost them a lot of money. It will cost them emotional pain. And the home will be so stressed, dysfunctional, and sad. So, to be a part of this family, you will do your best not to give sadness to your loved ones. And the third category of risk factors in cancer is infectious, meaning there is a correlation between having hepatitis B, C, and D with liver cancer. The diabetes 2 has a higher risk of having liver and pancreatic cancer because pancreas is the one producing the insulin for metabolism of the sugar. Kung nagkagulo po ang mga beta cells ng pancreas, so ang mangyayari, ang magkakagulo ang level ng sugar, so dun na po, you will have a type 2 diabetes and you will be taking medications for diabetes, which according to the study, probably daw, may porsyento na siya din po ang magkukos ng susceptibility to increase your cancer risk. Another one is the papilloma virus. That is an infection of the cervix, na increases the risk of cervical cancer. Okay, let me just discuss this part. So ano po ang naging solution dito? Hepatitis has a vaccine. The papilloma virus has a vaccine. Ito po yung Cervivax, yung para sa mga babae. Unfortunately, ginaya po ng Pilipinas ang first world countries. Kame-menstruate pa lang po nung bata, binabakunahan na. Why? Sorry to say, but this is the reality. The sexual activity of these cultures happen early. So, to save them from cervical cancer, kame-menstruate pa lang, binabakunahan na po yung stages na yun, ano? Yung doses na yun. Ginaya na din po sa Pilipinas. But, you have to realize, ito po ho, cervical cancer, the study shows that, number one, there was an early sexual contact. Number two, there was an early multiple partners. I'm sorry if I will hurt some people. Baka akala po nila ang ganito, ganyan. Hindi po. But this is just the study. There's a percentage of that. Number three, they had sexually transmitted diseases like po yung papilloma virus, mga ganyan po. And then number four, they had children early also in their lives. And pwede naman po kasi na they married early and then nabiyuda po sila, they married again and something like that. But that is just a scientific. It is not something that will make me hurt your feelings. I'm sorry po, but that is just the basis of the study. So now we can conclude that a substantial number of risk factors is preventable. Now I go to breast cancer. The mere fact that you are female, you are already at risk. Di ba po? And number two, the mere fact that you are older increases the risk of your breast cancer. In a room of 100 women aged 50, 5 of them will have breast cancer. In a room of 5 women aged 80 to 90 ganyan, 3 of them have breast cancer. Yan po ang masaklap na katotohanan. And this is related to after the age of 18, you gained weight and stayed there, or after the age of menopause, you started gaining weight too much. There was a time I was part of the subspecialty of breast imaging. There was a study na yung mga babae who work at night with in light po na hindi sunlight. Okay? Naka-on ang television, naka-on ang computer, that's their work, naka-on ang ano pa ba? Yung ilaw po nila pag natutulog. There was a link. It was never confirmed, but if you have this risk factor in your life, then you might as well try to do something about it. Sleep with no light, sleep without television or your cell phone beside you. Ganun po. Okay? Now, the female body is a gift, and it is built in a way to extend the human race. Tayo lang po ang pwedeng manganak, tayo lang po ang pwedeng mag-aruga ng baby na hindi na kailangan ng ibang mga gatas, kompleto na po yung ating katawan. That is why we have to be sensitive, okay, sa ating pangangatawan. And this is the gift we give ourselves, like an hour a month and 10 minutes after menstruation, once a month, for our check-up of ourselves. Okay. Cancer joins other diseases, similar factors, similar symptoms and signs. For example po, headache. Kasama din naman po yan sa, ano ba, error of refraction ng mata. Fever, sa ubo, sa UTI. Bakit po nagkaka-fever ang taong may cancer? Kasi po, ang cancer cells use up much of the energy, body's energy supply. Ngayon, yung cancer cells release substances that affect our energy build-up. Hindi tayo nakakaipon. Nakatulog na tayo, gising natin, pagod pa rin dahil po sa ganitong explanation. Tapos, the cancer cells, being bad cells, foreign body cells, activate the body's immune system. Ano po yung body's immune system? Yung panlaban sa katawan. Kaya po tayo nilalagnat. Yun po yung katulad po ng effect ng vaccination. Hindi naman po yung mismong virus ang in-inject sa'yo. It is just a proteins na hindi na po yan that will activate your body's immune system. Kaya ka may fever. So, the cancer cells will also do that. Now, what would be the difference between weight loss, unexplained, biglang 10 pounds, 10 kilos decrease, pain sa isang parte ng katawan, iniinuman mo ng every 4 to 6 hours ng pain reliever, and still meron siya, unexplained. Headache, pagdurugo sa puwetan, masakit, may kulani ka, especially dito sa neck. Bihira lang po ang kulani to be cancerous dito po sa baba. Most of the time po, sugat-sugat po yan dahil po sa pag-shave ng ating private part or nagkasugat po sa ating private part o sa ating constipation sa pagdudumi. Yun po yun. The factor here is time. We give ourselves time, but kung na-reach na po natin yung time na, uy, iba na to, that is when we have to seek medical help. We start with our family. Then we start like that. We ask our friends, kayo ba may ganito, ganyan, or something. And then, because for example naman po, ngayon sumakit ang tiyan ko, cancer na kagad ang iniisip ko, hindi naman po siguro angkop yung gano'n, di ba? Because unexplained length of, prolonged, unexplainable signs and symptoms. Yun po ang ating iisipin. So, the time is now 6:47. I will just finish in a few minutes. I will discuss COVID, which for a very short period of time. If you have any questions, please save it later so that I can finish my lecture. Now, about COVID, this is a very controversial topic, and I really don't want to make it controversial. I am a physician. I also, like you, have doubts. But when I have doubts, I read, I search. And when I see something na eto, I don't stop there. I get another source, another reliable source. I get another reliable source, and I decide on my own. But I still have to check kung ano yung basehan nila. Okay? So now, unfortunately, 2 foreigners have entered our country and are now, the Philippines is no longer Omicron free. The good news is, the OCTA has said na, yes, there is Omicron, but the symptoms are no longer fatal, are no longer severe because of the herd immunity. Okay? Ang COVID will just be like Klebsiella pneumonia, streptococcal pneumonia, COVID pneumonia, madadala niyan. It will be part of our lives already. It will be part of our future. We have learned or are still learning from it. But the mutations happen because that is the natural flow of things. A virus can mutate and mutate and mutate. It is also for their survival. Meron din silang parang fight or flight. Hindi lang tao ang meron nun. Meron din ng virus. So, actually, I am impressed that may mga scientists pala na ganyan ang kanilang ginagawa. Kasi ako dati, ako naniniwala na may Delta, mga ganon. Pero naniniwala ako na may COVID. Bakit? Kailan ba naman tayo nakakita ng mag-asawa sabay nawawala? In a matter of weeks, matter of days. Hindi ba pwedeng cancer ba yon? Pareho sila na-expose, ganon. The numbers speak for themselves, 5 million up. And then, now that Omicron is now in our midst, we still have to protect ourselves. We still follow the protocol. But, meron na po tayong parang kapanatagan. Yung paranoia natin is not 100%. Nasa, anong level yon? Yung parang level na we can carry bells na natin yung level ng paranoia. Ang mga kamay ko po ay talagang napaka-dry na, pero mamimili naman po ako sa dry hand because of alcohol every 5 minutes or every hawak ko ng papel sa trabaho, every hawak ko ng anything sa trabaho, or I could have lost my life and have made my family sad, my mother sad. I mean, I know that death is part of life, no? But if that's how we think about it, then talo na tayo. Because we are on earth to honor God, and we are on earth to help others. So pag nawala tayo, nabawasan ng isang mag-honor kay God. At nabawasan din ng isang tao, siguro na nagble-bless sa iba. And so, I hope that we continue to read and learn about COVID. We may not believe 100%, but if we read the right materials, if we listen to the right people, we will know na, yes, something really bad happened the first in this century, and we have survived it, and we will survive, but we will still have to be very careful in a way that we are not careless, but we are still mindful. And I'm not so sure if I really helped you today. Medyo worried ako sa time element. May ganun po talaga akong ugali, ho. Kasi I think you don't have to prolong anything if you have said enough, because ang lifespan or yung attention span ng mga tao is actually just 15 minutes. After that, hindi na po sila nakikinig. So, thank you for listening, and thank you to my son, Daniel Jared. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Nakinig naman kami the whole time.
So, if you
Do you have any questions, sisters?
I would just like to say na in January, our speaker is Sister Marilu Pascua Di Malanta. She will be talking about all you need to know about the legal procedures, etc. of dying. In February, we have Sister Lily May Franco Montano about music and therapy or something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any comment?
Na-overwhelm ba sa cancer and COVID information? Nakakatakot.
Ako meron lang ako share.
Opo.
Yeah, coming from an actual patient of cancer. I am actually a breast cancer. Hindi pa naman, I cannot, well, pwede na considered survivor kasi 9 years na, going 9 years. So ako parang tinitinan ko 10 years yung mark ko. But anyway, I agree very much with what was said a while ago regarding examining yourself. Kasi ako, in my personal experience, I uh, I learned about the cancer by taking a bath lang. I was taking a bath and nakapa ko siya. It was very small. Sabi nga ng doctor, it was parang halos imposibleng makapana ng human hand kasi it was less than 1 cm, which is normally daw ang nakakapa is the 1 cm. Pagka mga 0.6, 0.5, bihirang nakakapa. So, I was blessed that I was able to detect it early. And I would agree that having the right staging and knowing about it and knowing would give you the right diagnosis. And of course, you have to look for the right doctor to be able to provide you with the right treatment. So, yun masasabi ko. And yun nga, I think a lot of this has tested my faith. I had put a lot of faith, my faith and trust in God in this, and a lot of prayers talaga. And knowing that God is the greatest physician, yun ang talagang number one cause, healing talaga. But of course, as mentioned by Beck a while ago, we also should do our part. Hindi yung sasabihin, Diyos ang bahala. But you also, totoo yun, you also have to decide kung talagang you will accept the treatment or not. Kasi I could have thought, nako, ang mahal nun, di bali na lang, ano na lang ang tuition fee ng mga anak ko kasi I was byuda na ako na that time. Yung husband ko has just died about 2 months when I learned about this. So, if I think na, tama nga yung sinasabi na, do you wake up for your sons or your children? So, it is because I wanted to survive for my kids para makapag-aral naman din sila. So, that's very true na, yun nga, God will always lead you to whatever supposedly is suitable for you. Yun lang.
That's a very inspiring story, Thelma, ha? Kasi, there was a time, dalawang tao to. Stage 2 yung isa, stage 4 yung isa. Yung stage 2, ayaw makinig. Gusto niya, purely magsasamba siya dahil ang kanyang buhay ang magiging testament. And I talked to her and I said, I respect your decision, but don't change your mind when you're already 100. I said. Pero syempre, I knew na she will not reach 100. Si stage 4, she fought. She bought lots of wigs and she fought and she did what the doctor said. Sayang ang stage 2 because ang stage 2, 100% pure.
Yes.
But she was taking this, I'm sorry again to those who believe it, pero it was like 27,000 worth of monthly gamot na hindi ko din alam. Parang hindi naman siya medicine, ano bang tawag doon? Supplements. Now she's gone. But she's stage 4, she's alive, she has other businesses. and she has recovered. And I was really so sad for the stage 2 patient kasi she was an X-ray tech, she was medically field, marami siyang kakilala, but she just was so hard-headed na ang kanyang pananampalataya will be the one na magiging testament. And so yun po, before, in the 1989s, like 215 out of 1,000 will be saying goodbye because of breast cancer. But now it has gone to 154. So one of the best treatment modalities for the past decades is for the breast. So for me, it is not the end. It has 100% nice, very positive survival rate. And Thelma is one of them, and I'm so happy she's still here.
Yeah. I really do agree kasi sometimes a lot of people think about basically when you have cancer, it is really the financial, it's a financial burden talaga. It really is a financial burden, but as I would always say, God will always provide, and then there are also a lot of institutions that would help the government, is government alone, even the hospitals or the even the drug manufacturers,
Yes.
they can provide discounts if you ask for it. So madaming ways kung talagang gusto mong mabuhay or kung talagang gusto mong mag-survive.
Thank you. Thank you. Tapos na?
Yes.
Yeah. So, adding Cheryl, where are ya?
Yep, I'm here.
Yeah.
Kasi akong a friend, yung asawa niya, lalaki, meron siyang stage 3B cancer. So, lalaki nagkakaroon din.
Ng breast. Oh, nagkakaroon din. But, wala sa, it used to be, I tried to study that eh. Kasi meron din dati sa may Alaminos eh, na may ganyan. Meron siya, meron din kasi silang receptors, but not as much as tayo. Hindi, wala silang yung tungkol sa estrogen or progesterone or milk ducts, ganyan. Meron, but these are very rare and it's a different story. I cannot give you the details of that parang ganito ganyan kasi baka maalarma naman kayo, kapain nyo na yung mga dibdib ng mga asawa ninyo or mga anak ninyo, di ba? It's a very rare one. Unfortunately, we can discuss it in another, mga detalyadong ito. This is just a parang an overview. Pero,
Yeah. Okay. Okay, last question. If you have.
I have.
Ako may question. Ay, sige. Ako muna.
Auntie Med.
Dr. Beck, ka ba 4th stage na breast or cervical cancer? Pwede pang lumaban?
okay.
I mean, pwede pa siyang magpa-chemo ba or gawin yung mga dapat gawin pa kahit stage 4 na?
Okay. Fortunately, meron. Yes. Pero, but this is the reality, Stage 4 sarcoma, there is now a specific targeting drug. But it costs 150,000. But that's just the truth, di ba? Kasi nag-uumpisa pa lang siya. And ito binigay sa aking asawa ng isang surgeon who is already 12 years into this kind of thing. He told me the name. May ganon. Meron pong mga specific drugs for specific stage 4 metastatic. But they cost a fortune. Ngayon, am I the one to judge na ba't hindi mo to tinake? Andito na naman yung ano ng buhay, di po ba? na yung mayaman, mahirap, oportunidad, kakilala, connection. That is why, ito po, this is my advice. You may not have the money, but with your reputation, you may have many friends. And these friends will have unparalleled, priceless connections. Meron pala siyang kakilala na ano ng butika, na ano ng pharmacy, na connected sa boss ng ospital, o kakilala sa LGU, sa barangay. Yun po. So, money, admittedly, is a factor, but hindi ko talaga ma-express na pwede ko bang sabihin sa inyo na pera lang yan. Hindi po kasi talagang ang dami din pong nabaon dahil po sa COVID, na ICU sila, nabuhay sila, ngayon oxygen sila, pero baon din po sila sa utang. But, meron pong tsansa. Meron po. Except na minsan, pag naka-6 cycle na po sila ng chemo, na talaga pong bagsak na po yung katawan, zero na po ang pakiramdam, panlasa o lahat. Sila po mismo emotionally ang bibigay. Pag bumigay na po, emotionally, this is the time na yung family dapat support. Pero, this is also the time na the family might break up. Nagsisisihan na po sa pera and everything, lahat na po na-stress. And so, if you can talk to the doctor and say, Doc, I can only afford half of that, or I still have to find, the doctors naman are not, in my opinion, hindi naman sila po yung sabi, ay nako, wala kang pera, tapos na sa'yo. They will find ways if you can communicate the truth about your life. Na, I have 7 children, they will. And then, the government, the other private sectors, medyo may konting diskarte lang po. But until the game is over, it is not over. Yun lang po.
Thank you.
Yun nga, isang tableta po yun one tablet every I think one tablet every 2 weeks. It's like less than 200,000 per tablet. Yun po. I mean, I cannot judge if they won't fight anymore. I don't know. But in addition, for me naman po, in addition to that is, in my opinion, I will fight up to a certain level. But during that fighting, then I will now try to make my life significant to others. I will try to reconcile. I will try to offer my remaining days. I will not fight and fight and fight na in-intubate ka na or whatever just for the sake of that. I think na during this time, meron din po talagang spiritual preparation of accepting and still fighting, but it's a mixture of both. That's all. And another question po? Nagsabay sila kanina nagtatanong wala na, nasagot na ba?
May question si Lily May
May
sa
tanong
chat.
dito. So, let me ask.
Hi, Lily.
Prayer. But before that, Lily May, advisable to get a cervical vaccine at her age or in that age?
Okay. Let me discuss cervical. It is a very sensitive topic. It is a private matter. That's why let me explain it the best way I can. As long as you only have one partner, something like that. But if unfortunately or fortunate, I'm not sure, you had multiple partners, the risk is higher. Now, if you just have the one all your life, you're kind of safe. If you didn't have very early sexual contact, very early pregnancy, very early uh, multiple partners, you're kind of safe to me. Except that this is also ano kasi, business din po yan. Pero yung business na yan is acceptable in the UK, in the United States, in the Netherlands, you know, when they don't want to have children, but they have their sexual activities. So, in order to protect the population with that kind of culture and mentality, they have that kind of vaccine. And this was done a few years ago. Siyempre po, hanap buhay purin-puri rin niya ng mga OB-GYN, but it did not really, alam mo, hindi siya nag-click masyado. Kasi, we take care of our daughters. You know, we take care of our daughters. They're not like, pinabayaan na natin sila at bahala na sila kasi nga, they're menstruating already. Iba po naman pong kultura sa Pilipinas. So, yes, if that's what you like, but because that is what is actually advised. But if you want to learn the bakit nagkakaroon ng cervical cancer, you know why it is done highly recommended in first world countries, in Europe, US, UK, where the liberal lifestyle is more acceptable. In the Philippines, medyo hindi naman po. But still, yes. That's all.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Auntie Meda, please lead us for the closing prayer.
Okay. Manalangin tayo. Dakilang Ama na mapagpala at maibigin, salamat pong muli sa pagkakataon po na naibigay sa amin para sa gabing ito, Panginoon, ay matuto kami ng maraming bagay patungkol po sa aming kalusugan. Salamat po kay Dr. Rebecca na nag-share po ng maraming kaalaman patungkol po sa mga dapat at mga hindi dapat, mga signs and symptoms po ng mga karamdaman na usually po ay nakikita sa aming mga kababaihan. Nawa, Ama, ang aming mga natutunan po ay magsilbing tulong po sa isa't isa. Nawa po ito ay makatulong upang matuto po kaming mag-check ng aming mga sarili at mag-ingat po ng aming mga sarili. Salamat po sa mga ganitong pagkakataon na naibibigay po sa amin. Tulungan po ang isa't isa sa pamamagitan po ng mga ganitong kaalaman. Nawa, Ama, ay patuloy niyo pong samahan kami sa amin pong araw-araw na buhay, lalo na po sa pag-iingat po ng aming mga katawan, dahil ang katawan pong ito, Panginoon, na inyo pinagkaloob ay ang templo po ng aming Panginoong Hesus, na dapat po ay lagi naming pinapahalagahan at ginagamit po ito para sa ikatataas po ng inyong pangalan. Patuloy nawa, Panginoon, nagabayan niyo po ang bawat isa na nandito ngayon, ang amin pong mga pamilya, patuloy pong ingatan niyo po kami sa anumang kapahamakan. Patuloy din po, Panginoon, na hinihiling namin na pagkaloob niyo pa po ang maraming ganitong pagkakataon sa mga future speakers po namin, Ama. Nawa po ay samahan niyo sila sa kanilang pagkahanda para po sa darating na oras na sila po ang magtuturo sa amin, ay magawa po nila ng naayon po sa inyong kalooban ang lahat po ng kanilang ilalahad. Nawa, Ama, patawarin niyo rin kami sa marami pong pagkukulang po na aming nagagawa, aming pagmamalabis at sa amin pong pagsuway sa inyong pong mga kautusan. Samahan niyo po kami, tulungan niyo po kami na maging matatag sa amin pong mga pananampalataya. Nawa po, Panginoon, ay palagi niyo po kaming masumpungan, sumusunod po at laging naglilingkod sa inyo. Ito po, ang lahat ng ito, Panginoon, ay amin pong hinihiling sa matamis na pangalan ng aming Panginoong Hesus. Amen.